Alright, let's create another project called Unit Converter app. In this project, you'll have the chance to practice operators, if else, switch, loop, input validation, methods, exception handling, everything. But not everything all together. So first you will start with operators, and only then whenever you'll feel the need of if else, switch, loop, you'll introduce them one by one. And this is how you basically practice, you understand the concept, and then you apply the concept. This is going to be a bigger one, so surely it needs a lot of patience from your side. If you know already these topics such as operators, if, switch, that will help a lot. I have already created videos about them, and of course I believe you already been through those. But again, if you're already feeling comfortable with these topics, you can continue with this project, no problem with that, because I will also try to explain as much as possible in this project. In this repository I have many problems, and one of them is related to operator. Here we're going to create a unit converter app. Basically, we're going to create an app that will help us to convert between kilometer and miles, Celsius and Fahrenheit, and then finally kilograms and pounds. So I'm going to tell you all the formulas that you need in order to do this operation. But again, what I will do, I will create a new repository where I'm going to push all the codes, because later on when you learn if else, we'll make some modification in this assignment. And also when you will learn switch, we'll again make some modification in this one. And let's say when we'll learn exception handling, we'll add something in this assignment. So this assignment is something we will work a few times. So that's why I want to create a repository, and I want to store that inside the repository. But again, if you have no knowledge about Git and GitHub, you can watch this video of mine. You can search it like on YouTube, or maybe I will put that one in the description. So if you search GitHub Anisul Islam English tutorial, I'm sure you'll be able to find out this one. But in case if you don't find, you can just leave a comment. I will try to reply. But on the other hand, if you do not know, or if you're not interested about Git and GitHub, no problem. You can write a program, and you can create a different file. You can create you can store that in your computer. That's completely fine. So you can create a new repository or new folder, new console application, and then you can store it somewhere else. But let's start. What we are going to do, I'm going to again share the repository with you. So this is the one we are looking for. Again, if you go to my GitHub repository, and if you look for C#, learn C# by solving problems, this is the name of the repository. So if you come here and then search for all the repositories, let's say I will go here, and then you can search by learn C# by solving problem, and you can see this is a public one, so you can access anytime. One more thing I want to tell you, if you have not covered operators, if you have not covered variables, no problem. When I will solve, I'll try to explain a little bit. So basically, first of all, I will pause the video so that you can solve on your own. But if you cannot do that, if you're someone who doesn't want to go through everything about operators, or who doesn't want to go through everything about variables, data types, maybe you're just interested to solving this problem and move to the next chapter of control statement. So let's start. I'm going to share again. It's a very simple thing. If you have learned what I have taught so far, I'm sure you will be able to do this. So pause the video, finish the problem, and then come back for matching the solution with me. But again, if you are not someone familiar with operators, this and that, maybe the things we need in order to solve this one, you can wait a minute and then you can come back, and then you can see the solution where I'll explain everything. All right, I hope you have tried. Now let's start. I'm going to start. First of all, here we're going to create a console application. We can start from this scratch. So for this one, maybe I'll give it a try for you. So let's do that. I'm going to open my terminal, and what I will do, I'm going to go to my documents folder, and then I'm going to create a folder called unit converter. Again, we can create an application directly here, so let's do that. I'm going to say .NET new console. So we are following the first step, and then we can give a name, and we can give an output to somewhere. We can give a name for that folder. So let's say I'm going to give a name for the folder. Let's call it unit conversion, unit converter C#. Let's put it like that way. Converter, I'm just trying to be sure. C#. All right. And this will create a new console application for us. Let's go to the folder called unit converter C#, and let's open that in our VS Code. So I'm going to open that in our VS Code. And for now, I'm going to minimize this one. Let's do that. Let's focus on only this one at this point. Okay, I can close the terminal. So the first step is done. Let's continue. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to adjust my VS Code so that you can see well. There you go. So we have a very basic program. First of all, I want to ignore the things that later on I do not want to push to GitHub. So git ignore, and then let's say what are the things I want to ignore. I want to ignore the bin folder. I want to ignore the object folder. So anybody that wants to run our application, they need to use .NET build, and then immediately they will get this folder back. So we don't have to push them to the GitHub. Okay. So again, I'm making sure everything is correct. And now, first of all, what I will do, I want to start following, let's say this one, but let's go one by one. There is no hurry here. What I want to do, I want to create a GitHub repository where I'm going to store this program that I'm doing. Again, this is an optional. If you have no interest about pushing that to the GitHub, you can skip, this step, and you'll follow me for the next steps. So here I'm going to create, let's call unit converter C#, unit converter C#. All right, I'm creating a project. You can give any name, doesn't matter. And I'm choosing myself as an owner, and it's going to be a public repository. And let's create the repository. So first of all, what I have to do here, in order to connect with my remote repository that I created here, I need to initialize Git. Let's do that, Git initialize. And now I have Git here. So what I can do, I can push my codes. So let's add the changes that I have, and let's make the initial commit. So git commit -m, and let's say this is my initial commit. All right, or let's say console app created, create console app. All right, that's all done, and it's time to connect with the remote repository. So I'm going to copy and paste everything. It will, add that remote repository and also change that branch name into main, and finally it's going to push all the code to the remote repository. There you go. So I'm pushing all the codes, and if I go back, reload, let's have a look. What do we have here? So we have the basic setup here, and you can see that we are ignoring the bin and object folder. So no one basically needs to have this bin and object folder. Now, if someone wants to use this one, they will just go here, they will clone, and they will get this project. So if they click here, and if they open something like a terminal, if they clone it, they will get everything back for sure. I can show you that step as well. Let me continue. So I'm going to move from here. I'm going to delete the folder that I have here, which is this unit conversion, and I have deleted that one. Now I will close everything. I just want to show you all this process so that you don't get confused, and you want to know like how everything moves here. So if someone push their code to GitHub or repository or a project, then how to get that project, that's what I want to show you. Now I'm going to the documents folder again. I want to clone that repository. Let's do that. So again, git clone, and let me paste it. Give me a moment, git, and let's run it. We are having some issue here. It says we have one project already exist, and it's not an empty directory. Let's check that one here. So it seems we have that project already. I'm going to delete that one, remove rf, and then unit converter C#. I have deleted that one. Now I'll try again, cloning, and there you go, it has cloned. Now I can move to that folder and open that to my VS Code. So you have seen the process, like how can you work in a GitHub repository. That's all. For sure, it makes sense. So we're keeping a backup, and also it's a shared repository. Anyone can share it, they can see it, and if we allow, they can see it for sure, and also they can contribute. But let's continue. We are done with the first step. Also, we have done an external or additional step. Hopefully this one is also making sense. Now let's start implementing the unit conversion calculation. All right, so let's go to the program again. Here we are in this file we're going to work. So let's start. I'm going to increase the font size so that you can see well, and I'm going to minimize the Explorer. So first of all, what we're going to do, we're going to work with the kilometers to miles or miles to kilometer one. So in order to do that, we're going to just write a welcome message here. Let's say CWL, and let's say welcome to this unit converter app. Okay, let's put a message here. Welcome to the unit converter app. converter app. So this is going to be a welcome message or greetings. Let's put it like that way. And then I am going to copy and paste a few times. So here we're going to say, let's say, available conversion that we have for now. Later on, of course, we're going to add if, else, switch, and we will make this one more better. But at this moment, let's keep it like this. I will say available. Let's add one more new line here, just for, to make it a little bit more beautiful when we're going to run it. So available, and I'm sorry if I make any spelling mistake, by the way, conversions. Great, and now I'm going to add a few more. Maybe I'm going to add colon here just to make it a little bit better, that's all. And then let's put it like this. Here I'm going to say number 1 for kilogram to miles, sorry, kilometers to miles, kilometers to miles. And then let's put dot here. Well, that's not necessary. And then I'm going to put the second one, which is going to be miles to kilometer. So let me put it like this, miles to kilometers, that's all. And for now, I have two options. Let me work on this one. First, kilometer to miles or miles to kilometer. Now, the formula that we are going to use here, first of all, I need to take the user value. That's the first thing I'm going to take. And then I'm going to show you the formula. So let's take the user input. We're going to take the input value here, console write line, and let's say enter the value you want to convert. Enter the value you want to convert. Great, convert, and the user will give us the value, but we want to take the input as the same line, so that's why I'm going to use this one. Okay, and then I need to take that one input. Let's give a variable input value, and then let's use the console.readline. So we'll take a string here, and after that we're going to convert that string into integer or some sort of number, let's say double number. So somebody can give us integer number or the fractional point number. So let's convert it into double. Let's name it value, the variable. After convert, we want to store that variable. And how can we convert? There are three different methods we have learned. We have learned convert, then we have learned the other one was integer.parse, and or let's say double.parse, or the other one was double.try-parse. So we can use any one of them. Now here I'm going to use the convert one, which is the easiest one. So the input that we have taken, by default, readline gives us string. That's why we're having it as a string. And then we are converting into double. I hope things are making sense. And now let's put it here. Let's say the first one, what we want to do here, we want to convert it from kilometers to mile. Let's do that first. Again, this message might not make that much sense, but later on, let's say I can put it like this for now. Let's say kilometers to miles, if it is making a bit confusion here, and miles to kilometers. Now the first one, probably we can run it that way as well. Let's keep it, doesn't matter. I think I will comment it for now. Let's finish this one first, kilometer to miles. So we're expecting they will give us kilometers, and we need to convert into miles. Now 1 kilometer equal how many miles? I guess 0.621371. Again, you can check Google and you can find it out. So let me do the conversion here. Let's say double converted value. So I will use the same variable for all the conversion result. And I can put it maybe at the top, a little bit top here, somewhere here. Let's put it here, doesn't matter. Or maybe after the conversion, it's completely fine. Okay, now let's start the conversion. So we're going to store the result inside this converted value. And what do we want to do? The value that we have received from the user, which is something going to be, let's say, kilometer. And now from that kilometer, we need to convert into miles. So we just have to, multiply with 0.621, 621 and 371. That's all. And our job is done. Now this will give us the value as miles, and we can run this program. So let's run it. Convert the value, let's say miles. Or I can put it like this, kilometer value kilometers is equal to the result that we have received. So instead of this string concatenation, I'm going to use string interpolation. And if I want to use string interpolation, I need to put a dollar here. I'm sure you're already familiar with this symbol. And this will help us to print with the curly braces. So we can print any variable with the curly braces. Now here, the one I want to print is the converted value, So let me write it down here, converted value. That's all. And now let's run this program. Let's see what happens if we run this program. Does it work or not? Let's check it out. All right, I hope you can see the program. Let me open the terminal. So here, Control Shift, and there you go. It opens the terminal. And if I run this .NET run, what will happen here? So first, it will show us welcome to the unit converter app, and that's what it's showing us. Then we have a new line. That's why we have extra new line. So after the write line, we know normally we have a new line. So after printing this string, we had already a new line here, but then again, we started with this \n, which is also helping us to create another new line. So we have the available conversion, kilometer to miles. That's the only one we have at this moment. And we're asking the user to, give us a value to convert. So for an instance, if I give a value here, let's say 1, it should return us something that we are expecting, 0.621371 into miles. And it does, but it should show as a miles, so that's why I can add miles here. So it will make more sense. Let me run it again. And let's see if I give 1, does it show? Exactly. But of course, we can make this result a little bit better. So we can show maybe 2 decimal point. So that's why I can format this one a bit. :F2, that means after the decimal point, we'll show only 2 digits. That's what we want to do. So let me run this again and let's see what happened. Does it work or not? If I give 1, it's working perfectly. Now let's move on and do the other one. So which is this miles to kilometers, something I want to do. And for that, we're going to take again user input and then we'll continue with the same procedure. So what I will do here, I'm going to copy paste everything that I have. So let's do that. I think I need to copy paste the same thing. And for now, let's separate our code in a nice way. Later on, of course, we are going to use here if else and you'll see things will be more better. So for now, let's say here what we have, I'm going to remove this command. And for now, let's say this one, I'm going to make it so better. So let's say this is going to be for kilometers to miles. Okay, kilometers to miles, just keeping some notes for me. And what we're doing here, we're taking the user input, fair enough. Then we are converting the value, that's also good. I think what I will do for now, I will declare this variable at the top. And the reason is why I'm going to tell you very soon. So let me do that. And from here, let me get rid of these. Okay. What else I want to do here? Of course, this is not what I'm trying to do. Let me just copy and paste. And then now, if I want to repeat it here, this one is going to be for miles to kilometers. Then we want to take the value from the user. But now we are having an error because we have already defined that type of variable. So that's why what I want to do, I want to define these variables that I have here at the top so that I don't get the error. Let me just close them up and maybe I can define all the variables here for now. So string input value. And then I want to have double value and also the converted value. All right, that's all. So I have all the variables that I declare at the top. Now throughout the app, I can use them. For now, things are looking a bit messy, which is completely fine because later on we're going to use if else and things will be better. So let me just remove this and remove this. All right, and also maybe I do not need this one anymore. I can get rid of this line. There you go. All right, but in the end, of course, this time we're not going to multiply with 0.61231. We're going to divide because we want to convert miles into kilometers. So let's put it miles here and kilometers here. And that's all basically. Now we need to run this program. So let's see what happens if we run this program. All right, and let me take it to a little bit top so that you can see well. So we will run this application. First, it will take the value from us for kilometers to miles in order to complete from kilometers to miles. So I'm going to give 2 kilometers and it shows that value into miles. And then we have miles to kilometers. So there could be a little bit more gap. So for now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add new line here, few new lines. Let's do that, /n, the other slash, not this one I'm looking for, /n/n. There are a few new lines I have added. And now I'll run it again just to make it a little bit better. Okay, and let's give 2. There you go. Now miles to kilometer, I'm going to give 1.24 miles, and it should return me to, so here we are trying to convert miles to kilometer. I'm giving 1.24 miles. It should be 2 kilometers after the conversion. And there you go. It's working perfectly. Now that we are done with this conversion between miles and kilometers, we can push our code to the GitHub to keep a version history. So I'm going to add the changes that I made. I'm going to make a commit here with commit hyphen, and let's say add miles to kilometers conversion. All right, miles to kilometer or kilometers to mile. Miles and kilometers conversion. All right, that should be more than enough. Let's push the changes. All right, and we can reload. We can see what do we have at this moment. All right, so it shows add miles and kilometers conversion here. If I click it, and it should show all the things that we did already. All right, let's move on. We're done with the first conversion. Now it's time to convert between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So again, it's going to be super easy for us because we have the things that we need. We're just going to copy paste now. So here I'm going to copy this code that I have, and everything I have to do, basically I need to change some things like textual basis. So let's say this time I'm going to say Celsius to Fahrenheit for the first one. Let me copy this and let's paste it here. Celsius to Fahrenheit. There you go. Okay, Celsius to Fahrenheit. And let's do one more thing. I think it will be better for later. I'm going to add a number here. So this is going to be number 1, the conversion one, and then I'm going to use miles to kilometer number 2. Something might help us later on. So at this point, I'm just leaving them here like this. And then maybe for the last one, the next one will be number 3. Let's put it like this. And from Celsius to Fahrenheit, we'll take the user value. We will, of course, taking the user value here. And then we are converting into double. That's completely fine. But what about the formula? So in order to take Celsius to Fahrenheit, in order to convert, the formula will be value into 1.8. So if you divide that 9.5, let me just put it like this. So value into 9.5, that's the formula basically. And then we can put it inside a parenthesis. And after that, we can divide it by 5 or maybe plus 32. That's the formula. Okay, you can check this one out, of course, from the Google. So this is the formula in order to convert to Celsius to Fahrenheit. But again, there is sometimes, of course, the value is double. So that's why if you, multiply with 9 by 5, it's completely going to work fine. But sometimes when you divide integer by integer, the result will be integer and you are not going to get the actual result. So what I will do, I can convert here the data type. I can make this one double, which will make sure everything goes fine. Or even what I can do, I can keep the decimal value. So if you divide 9 by 5, then the decimal value will be 1.8. That's all. Now here I'm going to show it's, let's say, Celsius value, Celsius to Fahrenheit. That's all. Fahrenheit. That's all. More than enough. It should work. And I'm going to copy paste this one as well down below from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Okay. So let me just cut it from here. This time it's going to be number 4. And then let's put Fahrenheit to Celsius. That's all. And we'll take the user input again. We'll take the value, and then in order to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius, the formula is value minus 32. And then let's continue. After dividing, after subtracting that 32, what do we need to do? We need to do the multiplication here according to the formula. Again, nothing memorizing. We can check Google and we can find out this formula. And then we have 5 by 9. That's all. Again, this 5 by 9 we can maybe put as a, let's say, 1.8, divide by 1.8. That's something also we can do. All right, let's see if we run this one, how this one works. Let's check this one out. And here, one more thing I need to change. I need to convert it to Fahrenheit to Celsius. So here I'm going to put Celsius. All right, let's see whether it does work or not. I'm going to run it again. So we have now 4 conversion altogether, and let's test this one out. Oops, not the right one. I just want to run it. Okay, I want to first convert from kilometers to mile. So let's keep 2 kilometers and 1.24 miles. Again, I'm testing this one out. The third one, Celsius to Fahrenheit. Let's keep 24 degrees Celsius. The Fahrenheit is 75.20. I want to do the opposite one, 75.20 as a Fahrenheit, and I want to see what the Celsius value it returns. And it does return 24. So it seems everything going well. Now it's time to add the changes, commit it, and push it. So edit, commit it. So this time we're going to say add converter between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So let me just copy this and paste it here. That's all. And let me just get rid of one extra C, commit and push. That's all. And this should be pushed here in our repository. If I reload, and there you go, you can see all the codes are here. So it seems everything is going fine, but maybe I want to add some notes again as a command, It's too obvious, and that's why maybe I can, forget for the comments for now. I can skip the comments. So kilometers to miles, and here miles to kilometers. I don't see the need, but let's keep it. Miles to kilometers. Okay, and the next one, Celsius to Fahrenheit. So these will help me to recognize the code that I have related to individual tasks. Here, Fahrenheit to Celsius. Fair enough. And now that I made some changes, I can maybe add one more commit here. It's a good practice to add commits too often, but of course not too often here. So add comments. All right, that's all. Even though it's not that much meaningful, but let's put it like that way. Hit push, and it should show all the comments that I made. All right. So all the parts, they're separated with the comments, and easily I can recognize which part is responsible for what. We have nearly finished this assignment. Just one more conversion left. Let's go and check the problem. So it says convert between kilograms and pounds. That's the only one left. Remember that we are using arithmetic operators so far, which is plus, minus, into, divide, modulus, nothing more than that. We're also taking the user input, and then also we're showing the user the converted value that we are getting after the conversion. So let's do one more thing, just copy paste, super easy for us for sure. Here I'm going to copy and paste these two, or maybe one for now. So let's copy and paste. Down below, this one is going to be number 5. And what we're going to do in this one, we want to convert from kilograms to pound. Okay, so let me just copy this, paste it here for now, kilogram to pounds. Good, and let's say kilogram to pounds. That's all. After that, and the value that you want to convert, still the same thing. We're taking the user input into string, then we are converting into double. But then how can we convert from kilogram to pounds? Let's do that. So with the value that we have, we need to multiply with 2.20462. 2.20462. That's the formula if you want to convert from 1 kilogram to pounds. Again, nothing you need to memorize. You can search it, you can find it on Google. All right, so let me write it down. 1 kilograms equal, let's say 1 kilogram, the other way, not grams. Kilogram equal 2.20462 pounds. 20462 pounds, yes. All right, and then what we can do here, we can show here kilograms, and here we can show pounds. That's all. Now, if I want to do the other way, by the way, let me just copy and paste this one and put it here. That's all. Now, if you want to do the other way, pounds to kilogram, again, super simple for us. Before we multiplied, now we are going to divide. That's all. And we can change here, pounds to kilogram. Let's do that. Kilograms. Same thing, I can just copy and paste. Let's be real quick and put it here. All right, and the number can be 6 this time. Alrighty, and then what else? Pounds to kilograms. kilograms. And of course, this time, the formula changed. So 1 kilogram or 1 pound, we can put it other way. If you divided it, then you will find something like this: 0.462 or 0.45392. That should be the right one. Again, you can search it. Kilograms. All right. So if you divide 1 by this one, the result should be 0.453592. Again, you can check. If I'm wrong, maybe you can adjust it. All right. So that's all. This one should work. Let's run it and let's see what happens if we run it. So git, not git. We're going to use .NET Run. All right. There are a lot of things, a lot of warning going on, and maybe we can fix this warning right away before doing anything else. So in order to get rid of that, we want to make sure that it can take null value for now. So that's how we can get rid of the warning that we have. And there you go. So when we added that the question mark, what we said, the value for this input value can be null or something else. All right. So for now, let's keep it up like this. Let's run it so that we don't have that warning. Enter the value you want to convert. So let's say 2 kilometers, 1.24 miles. If I give 1.24 miles, it should show 2 kilometers. From Celsius to Fahrenheit, 45, or let's say 20 degrees Celsius, so equals 68 Fahrenheit. And if I give 68 Fahrenheit, it should give me 20 degrees Celsius. And that is something happening. Let's say 5, or let's put it like this: 72 kilograms equal 158 pounds, point something. If I use the same value, 158.73 pounds, it should return me 72 kilograms. And there you go. So everything seems working fine, and we are done with this assignment for now. But remember, later on when you learn switch, we'll change this one, we'll update this one. So this problem will, have a little bit more fewer steps. When we learn if else, we'll make this one more better. When we'll learn while, for loop, while loop, do while loop, this one will be more better. So the more you learn, of course, the assignment will grow bigger. And in the end, we'll have a project, converter app project, where we'll apply all the things that we are learning. Of course, we'll be creating few others projects. So this is not the only one. We are solving many problems. But of course, if you do not want to go through all the topics that I'm discussing and then I'm giving the assignment, if you just want to go with this one, like solving one problem and getting rid of one chapter, that means by solving this problem, you are finishing operators, variables, introduction chapter. And when you are done with this one, the next problem, again, you can go directly to that problem and start solving that one. By solving that one, you will finish if else. And again, this problem will be same for switch. So when you will do that problem, that means you will finish the switch chapter. And again, this problem will be introduced for a loop. So when you're done with this, problem, inside the loop chapter, that means you don't have to go through everything about loop. But again, if you want to go through, all the topics that I'm covering, that's also fine, completely fine, and surely you will learn a lot. Now let's add, commit, and push. Add, commit. So here I'm going to say add kilogram to maybe pounds conversion. Add, convert between this one. So let's just copy and paste. There you go. Press enter. And let's push this, all the changes that we made. All right, let's reload it and let's see what happened here. Good. So far so good. Everything looks completely fine. If we are familiar with if else, we can make our converter app more better than before. And if you see the final assignment for if else, if you recall, we did this one earlier for operators. When we learned operators, we did one assignment related to this unit converter app. There we only used operator, but now that we have learned if else, it's time to use that one in this converter app, and so that we can make this app more useful. So what we can see, the only difference this time, of course, everything looks familiar to us. The only difference what we can see here, ask the user to enter the value and the type of conversion they want to perform. So here we're going to take the user input for the option they want to check. For an example, they want to convert from kilometers to miles, or maybe miles to kilometers, or maybe Celsius to Fahrenheit, or maybe Fahrenheit to Celsius. So we'll give them some option. Based on their option, we are going to run our app. So at this point, if I run this one, if you recall, for sure, it's going to run all the conversion that we have. So if I run this program, you will see that. So at the beginning, it starts with kilometers and miles. If we get kilometers, then the next one comes here from miles to kilometers. For an example, if I give the miles, then it asks for Celsius to Fahrenheit. But in real life, maybe when we have like a real application, we do not provide it such a way. So we give the user an option. Hey, if you want to do this, choose 1. If you want to do that, choose 2. If you want to do something else, choose 3. So we'll give an option here, because at this point there are 4 different type of, or 6 different type of conversion we can do here, from kilometers to miles or miles to kilometers. Then we have Celsius to Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit to Celsius, and then we have kilo to pounds or pounds to kilo. But we want to give one option to the user. If they wish, they can go for any option. So let's do that. Here I'm going to stop this one. Let's cancel it. Let me clear it, and let me take out this terminal from here. And you can read again the problem. The only thing we are adding here, we are getting user input for the option. So that's the only thing we want to bring in. So let's take the user option, from somewhere. So let's say what I want to do, I want to put all the option at the beginning. All right. So let me cut it from here. So this way we can make things more better. So let me just cut all these from here, and I'll put it here. Okay. And then I'm going to get rid of many things here. For an example, we are just converting the value. So we'll take the value from the user as well. And here I'm going to show all the options. So first of all the option needs to be here. Let me get rid of this, get it here, put it here. That's also, we have option 1, option 2. And in this case, there is no need to, put all the new lines there. And also try to understand, we are taking the user input. So I do not need these 3 lines anymore. So we are reducing the number of lines for this code as well. And here I will take this one. So let me just take it to the top here, paste it. That's all. And then let me just close it. Here I'm going to get rid of this new line. And then which one we want to pick up? We want to choose this one as well. So let's get it at the top. Let me just bring it at the top here. All right, let's go down below, and we do not need to take user input every time. We'll take only one time, and we're converting. That's all. Again, we do not need these things here. That's all. Also, let's continue. Now this is the option I need. So let me take it at the top. There you go. I will put it here. Great. Then let's continue. Let's see whether anything else I need to get rid of from here. I do not need this one anymore. Great. I need to take this option at the top. So all the option will be top. User will see, and they will give us an option. And based on that, we can run any of this conversion code. Okay. Let's continue, and I will get rid of these line of codes, because we are taking user input one time, and then we're choosing the option that we want to execute. Okay. That's all. More than enough. Now let's continue, and let's get rid of all these new lines that I have here. Let's be real quick and get rid of them. All right. So now we're going to show a few options to the user. They will give us an option, and based on that, we are going to, run the code that we want, because we have different block of codes. We have kilometers to miles, then we have miles to kilometers, Celsius to Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit to Celsius, kilogram to pounds, pounds to kilogram. But we don't want to run all of them together. Maybe we want to run one based on the user option. So let's take that user input here for the option. So you can give anything. Let's say double, or yeah, let's do that. I think any option is completely fine. So let's say enter the value you want to convert, or enter the option you want to go for. So in this case, I think integer will make sense, because we are using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, integer option. And let's say here we are going to take the user input. So that's why we are going to use system console.readline. Let's use that console.readline. We need to take user input, and there you go. At the same line, we are converting it to integer. All right. And before that, I want to maybe put it there at the top. So let's bring it here. So first we are taking the user input, then we are taking the user value, whatever the value that they will give. Based on that, we are going to convert. That's all. But now this option can be from 1 to 6. And based on that, we are going to run this block of codes that we have. So what I will do, I'll cut this one. I'll put here, I will use if. Of course, we are familiar with if, else if, and else. So if doesn't work, then we'll go to the else if block. If else if doesn't work, then we'll go to the next else if block. That's how if else work. And if no one works from the top, then the last one, which is this else, will work. So we can keep a condition here. For an example, if the option equal to 1, then we want to do something. In our case, we want to convert it from kilometers to miles as per our instruction. And then if this one doesn't work, then it will go for the next one. If the option is equal to 2, then we want to do something. And what is that? We want to convert from miles to kilometers. And we have the code already for that one. So let me just get rid of this from here and just put it here. That's all. And that's how we can continue. If the option is 3, then we want to do something. And what is that thing? If the option is 3, we want to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So we need that code. Let's get that one real quick, cut it and paste it here. That's all. I'm sure you're getting what I'm trying to explain here. And now we need few more else if. So here I'm going to add one more. Else can be the last statement. Remember that if no one works, then else will work. Okay. Here I'm going to add one more option. Option equal 4. And there you go. I can copy paste few more time this one. 5 and 6. So for option 5, what we want to do. For option 6, what we want to do. That's what we can declare here. So again, remember, if will be always the first statement if you have multiple if else. So if this one it works, if the condition is true, only then this block will work. So this conversion will happening. But if doesn't work, then it will move to the else if. If this one works, then completely fine. That's where we are like finishing this program. But if this one doesn't work, only then it will go to the next else if. And that's how the letter like continue. Here, let me continue with cutting this one and pasting inside this option 4. All right, then let's see what else we have to do here. We need to cut this one as well. So let me take this one as a top inside this. That's all, not this. I think one more. Let's go one more. There you go. And the last one we need for the option 6. So let's go down below. We just need to select this line of code and let's take it to the top. All right, and that's all actually. But now what happened if no option match? Maybe the user can make mistake. They can give us 8. So in this case, that option will be invalid. Let's show that option, the invalid one as well. So here I'm going to write a console write line and I'm going to put invalid selection. Invalid selection. Please run the program again. Please run the program again. That's all. That's more than enough that we need, and I'm sure we have done it, and it's time to check the output. Okay, so here I'm running the program .NET Run, and this time we have something like a menu. So we can choose an option and then we can give a value. For an example, I want to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit, so I'll choose 3 here, press enter, and it is asking for the value that I want to convert. So let's say Celsius value is going to be 45 or 20 that I want to convert into Fahrenheit, and it shows 20 Celsius equals 68 Fahrenheit. So you can see that it's working very fine. What happens if we want to run this program again and if we want to give an invalid input or option? Let me run this one. Let's see what happened. So this time I will choose 7, which is not a valid option, and it of course it is asking for the value first. So of course we could get rid of this, like when the option is not valid, we can immediately show that instead of taking the user input, but this is something we can do later. So let's give some value, and if I give the value, it shows, hey, this is an invalid selection and please run the program again. Of course we could make this one a little bit better. So first of all, even before like going furthermore, we can end this program from here. That's also possible. But for now, I think it makes sense to keep it like this so that it doesn't make our situation too much complicated. All right, now that we are done with this assignment, let's push it to the GitHub, and we are familiar with that. So let's add the changes. Let's make the commit. Let's say add if else statement, and let's push it. Git push. There we go. And now if we come back again to our assignment, let's see what happened. Does it get the recent commit? And it does. Everything looks perfect. To the unit converter app again, and this time we're going to apply switch knowledge. So if you see this assignment, basically everything as usual, just like before, but the only things that we are changing here, we are going to make sure to check what type of the conversion user wants to do with switch statement. And that's why we need to get rid of this if, and we're going to apply a switch statement. That's all. Now again, there are two things important to notice here. We're going to use this switch block, and inside the switch block we can pass multiple things. For an example, you can pass only value that you want to convert, or you can also pass the option that you want to check, whether it's option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4. Now, if you do not recall, again, you can see here option. If it is option 1, we want to do something. If it is option 2, we want to do something with the value. If it is option 3, then we want to do something with the value. And now with the help of switch, we can pass multiple things inside that switch, inside a parenthesis like this, and we can say we want to pass the option and also the value. And now we can do something with this option value if we wish. Okay, so let's start with checking it. So what's the case we want to check? Again, you need to use parentheses here to check the case, and then you can do something. So first of all, I will check whether this option is 1. If it is 1, then what I'm going to do, I will take the value here inside a variable. You can use anything, doesn't matter. So in my case, for an example, I'm going to use var a. You can use anything. Again, I'm reminding you, you can use any type of variable here. And then now we can perform this operation that we wanted to do. So let me copy this one, let me paste it here, and let's make sure that we are breaking it. That's all. And after that, let's save it, and we can continue like this. But again, the name of the variable that I want to use here, it's something maybe not like this. Let's say we're going to name it as a value. And now we have a conflict here because both name match, so you can use anything again. So let's say user value or input. Let me put it like input value or user value, doesn't matter. Or we can use v here. Well, like this. That's all. And hopefully it's making sense to you. But again, if you're confused with the naming, you can change the name and you can give anything. Okay, so value from user. I'll put it like this. Maybe I want to change a bit here just to make it more reasonable or meaningful. That's all. And that's all we have. And now we can copy paste multiple times. Let me do that here. I'm going to change it, and this time I'll use option 2 and then option 3. Let me just continue like this. Here I'm going to use option 3 and then option 4. Let's continue like this. Here I'm going to use option 5. All right, and the last one, which is going to be option 6. Let me do that as well here. Good job. And then what are the changes we want to make inside those blocks? We can start doing that one. Okay, so let's start doing with that one. We are done with option 1. Let's get rid of this. We're going to copy this one and let's take it to the top. So copy, and then let's get rid of this option 2 and let me paste it here. Great. What else? So we can get rid of this one now. It's done. And remember to add the default one, otherwise we'll have some sort of error. So this one is going to be default, and then we can show something for the default one, something like this. Let's get copy this one, and let me get rid of this one. Let's go up, and here after this one I'm going to put here, and also we need the brick. That's all. We have an error here and we need to figure out why do you have this error. Okay, so we have if else, and that's why you have the error. Don't worry, we'll get rid of that one. And then let's cut this one for the option 3. Let's get rid of this statement, and let's go at the top. I'm going to paste it for this instead of this. That's all. What else we are going to provide here? Let's have a look. I think I'm going to get option 4 now. It's a good time to use the option 4. Let me cut it this one from here. Let's get rid of this one, and let's go at the top. Instead of this, I'm going to put the value here, and there you go. Let's continue. The next one is going to be this one. Let's get rid of this. No need to use this one anymore. Go at the top and let's paste it there. Good job. Let's continue. We're going to use this one, pounds to kilogram, and let's get rid of this one as well. That's all. That's going to be the last one. and hopefully things are making sense already and things are looking much more better than before. But of course there are a few changes we need to make. Now I need to copy this and I have to paste it nearly everywhere here. Actually here all the value will be changed this time, so let me change this one here as well. And of course this value needs to be changed as well, so instead of this value we're going to use the value from user. Let's continue. We're going to change here, and then we can continue like this. All right, I'm sure it's not going to take that much time. Of course we could use some shortcuts to change everywhere, but this is fine. All right, and that's all basically with switch case, and we can run this program. Let's see what basically it's going to work at this point. So if I run this, let's open the terminal. Oops, no, this is the one. Actually I'm going to use .NET Run to run this program, and it shows like what we want to do, what is the available conversion that we want to use. So let's say I want to use something from Celsius to Fahrenheit, so I'm choosing number 3, and then it is asking for the value, and I'm going to give 20 degrees centigrade, and it's giving us 20 Celsius equals 68 Fahrenheit, so which is something working completely fine. Now there are a lot of shortcuts we could use, like even we could use switch expression. There are a lot of ways we can use or make this one more easier or maybe more efficient. But let's have a look how can we use here the input validation to make this program a little bit more better and efficient. Let's also make sure that we are pushing all the changes to our GitHub repository where we are tracking the app. So this is the repository basically where I'm pushing all my codes, and this one will tell me exactly, if I check the commit history, it will tell me what are the things I have done so far. So first I created the console application, then I added the miles to kilometer, then I converted Celsius to Fahrenheit, then I added the code for kilogram to pounds, then I added the if-else, and finally I'm working with switch now, and let's add that. So git add dot git commit, and let's say add switch statement with multiple parameters, and there you go. And now I can push this code to the GitHub. That's all. And now the commit should be here, and there you go, it should come up here as well. Right, everything is going fine. As I said, we can add the validation, and this can be another part for us. So we'll add loop validation, and we'll continue with this one. Let's see how far we can go with this one. So far we have done quite much with this project, but it's time for us to add some validation and make it more better, more user-friendly, and more efficient. Let's say what happens if the user give us the option 7. So in this case, the 7 option does not exist here, but user can make mistake. And what will happen? Of course, we are taking user option here 7. So in this case, it will move to the next one and it will ask for the value to convert, but it doesn't make sense when the user is giving us an invalid option. Unnecessarily, it's going there, it's taking the user input, and then it's going to the switch statement, and finally here it's showing that invalid selection. But before even taking the user input here for the conversion, we know that it's not a valid option. So that's why we need to handle this more better way. And also when you're taking the user input, you might take some string from the user, which is something you cannot convert. So we already discussed about these things, but again, if you are not familiar with the input validation, I'm sure after understanding next few minutes, you'll be able to add validation to any project. So let's continue. First of all, here I'm going to ask add a if condition just to make sure that the user is not giving us any invalid option. So let's say if the option is not in between 1 to 6, then surely it's an invalid one. So I will say if the option is less than 1, so less than 1 is something we're not allowing, or if the option is greater than 6, in this case we can say, hey, this is an invalid option. So from here even we can make sure that this is an invalid option. We are not going to let the user to go to the switch statement for sure. So inside the switch case, we do not need that message, but let's keep it for now from there, and later on we're going to change it. For now, let me copy this one, and I'll go at the top, and here I'm going to paste it. So what does it say? Invalid selection. Please run the program again and give us the option from 1 to 6. So that's what we can say. Please give the option, select the option from 1 to 6. Please select from option 1 to 6. All right. And this message should help. But after running this console.write line, so that means after showing this information to the user, we want to start everything again so that the user can see the option and they can give the option again one more time. They can select something one more time. So for that reason, what we can do here, we can select everything and we can put everything inside a while loop here. So let's put everything inside a while loop and make sure that while keep running. So that's why we're going to put true. That means this while loop will keep running until we make it, until we break it. So for that reason, I'm keeping it here, everything inside that while loop. And now what I will do here, if this is a failed option or invalid option, we want to run again. We want to start from here again. So we want to continue. So here we're going to use the keyword called continue. What will happen if the option somebody, let's say giving 7, option 7 is greater than 6. In this case, this message will be printed and we are continuing from here. So it will go back to the while loop again. It will start from here. So that's how it will make sure that we are giving a valid option. So now let me run this and let me explain you what's basically happening here. So if I give a value here 7, after that, let me run it first and then select the option. So .NET to run. And now it is asking for an option. So let's see, if I give 7 right now, what will happen if I press enter? The 7 is going as an option here. The value 7 will be assigned to the option. And if condition here, 7 is greater than 6. So for sure, this one will be true. In this case, we'll see this message and it will continue. So it will go to the loop again. That means it will start from here and then you will see the message again. And this will continue. This process will continue until you give a valid option. So it will not bypass this if block until you give a valid option. So now let me press 7 and immediately it shows, hey, invalid selection, please select from option 1 to 6. And then you have the message again. All right. Hopefully things are making sense already. And then let me just make sure one more thing, that there is a still, let's say one more new line added in the end. So there should be some sort of separation. That's what I want. So I'm going to add one more new line. That's all. So hopefully this one is making sense. Now let's continue. We are passing this one for sure. But there is one more thing I want to check here in this if condition. It's possible. So what happens if someone give here string value? So, the string value we cannot convert into integer. So in this case, instead of this convert, I'm going to use parse. So you can use that one. So here I'm going to use try parse integer dot try parse. That's what I want to use instead of this convert, because convert does not throw, convert normally throws an exception, but this try parse, it returns true or false. If it can convert a value, it will return true, but if it cannot convert a value, then it's going to return false. So in this case, you can handle this better way. So let me show you what do I mean. So first of all, we're taking the user option as an input. So maybe here I will put it something like this, string. I'm just breaking it down for you, input, and then I'm going to take the user input here with the read line. And after taking it with the help of read line, what I can do here, let's call one more parameter here. Let's say Boolean. And let's say is integer. You can put anything, it doesn't matter. Is integer. And then what I want to do, I want to use integer dot try parse, and this will help us to convert it. And what we want to convert, we want to convert the user input that we already took here. Okay. And that user input, we want to convert it into something. So you need to use this out keyword. So if it goes right, if it can convert, then we are trying to get out that integer number from here. And you can give the data type because we are trying to convert it into integer. And then you can name any variable where you want to store the result after the conversion. So here we are saying, try to understand basically what we're trying to do. So input, we're trying to take the user input. You can maybe directly keep it here. There is nothing wrong with that. So you can keep it here. So it will try to take the user input. Other way, every way it's fine. So let's say we're taking the user input here, and that input we're trying to convert it into integer. So if everything goes right, it will convert and it will store the value inside option. And we are using option everywhere. Fine. But if it cannot convert, in this case, this value will be false. If it can convert, then this value will be true. So with the help of this value, we can add one more validation here. So if it is false, then, in this case, we might want to throw some message, hey, invalid selection, or maybe we cannot print out well. So that's something we can also, try here. So we can add one more at the top, even if you do not want to add here, one more if block. So let me paste it here. From here, if the option is invalid, so let's say that here, if it is false, so is integer. If it is not integer, Then we want to show a message, please give us an integer value. Please give us an integer value, not a valid numeric, or let's say only numeric value is allowed. Only numeric value is allowed. So if it is not a numeric value, that means you cannot convert. This value will be false, and if this false, this one is going to work. All right, let me try and let me show you what basically I'm trying to do here. And we can give a better naming for this one, maybe option input. This is something I can try here. So let's say option input instead of just input, and then let me paste it here. Fair enough. Let's run this program. Let's see what happens if we run this one more time. And this time what I will do, I will try with, small a, and small a will be inside of this option input, and then we are trying to convert it. So in this case, it will give us false value, and if it is false, this if block is going to work, and this message will be shown, and then it will go back again to the loop, and it will start from here. So everything will run again. So let's do that. If I press enter, there you go. It shows only numeric value is added, and now we have one more validation. I hope things are making sense to you. Now, exactly same thing, we can continue. When we're taking this user input, we can also add one more logic as well here, just to check whether it's a valid numeric value we have received or not. So for that reason, what I can copy and paste the same one. Don't worry, later on we'll make this one more better, but for now, let's continue doing that. So first of all, we are trying to use here double value, and then we are going to use try pairs. So if everything goes right, then it's fine here, and we are going to out that variable, the value, inside a variable called value. And let me get rid of here. So here we'll use boolean, and let's call is double, is valid. You can name anything, doesn't matter. So is valid value, something that's what I want to add. And then this will be our value that we want to pass there. So what does it say? Use of unassigned local variable. And this is something we can, of course, figure out. But before that, let me continue here. So we are trying to convert an input from the user into double. Now, if something goes right, we will have it here. Of course, if something goes wrong, this one will be false, and this should work. And in this case, we can show a message to the user. Let me go at the top, and let me copy and paste this one. Let me keep it here inside this one and show a message. Only numeric value is allowed. And let me get rid of this. Okay. And here, only the numeric value is allowed. That's all for the conversion. Let me add something here for the conversion. And now I can go up, and I think there is one more thing I need to change. Only numeric value is allowed. That's what I wanted to show here. Let's see what else we have. We have just one error that we want to fix. And if we can fix this, that's all. We can continue from here. Now, again, you can use continue. You can, of course, if you are not using while loop, you can return from here. That's also possible. But what is the error we have? Let's figure that one out. It says unnecessary assignment of a value to value, a local variable. Okay. And what to do that? Okay, we can change the name of this. We can name it anything, doesn't matter. So let's say converted value. All right, and it still shows the error. It shows the value is already defined, converted value. Let's say converted valid value. And now this is what I'm going to use here. That's all. And our job is done. So I don't see any error at this moment. If everything goes right, then we are converting it, and then that converted valid value we are using here. All right, let's run this and let's see what happened. I'm going to stop and let's run this one more time. This time I'll give a valid option number 2. Then the value that you want to convert. So in this case, I'm going to make intentionally mistake, which is a string, and the string cannot be converted. So this one should be false. If it is false, this one is going to work, and it will show only numeric value is allowed. And then it will continue again. So if I press A, immediately you can see that it's asking again. So I'm sure it is making sense to you, right? So then, of course, you can, handle it so beautiful. Like there are many ways to do that. It is starting from the beginning. But what you could do, you could add one more while loop inside that one, and you can continue from there as well. So let me run it again. Let's try 2, and let's give a valid value 23. And what is happening here, it is working fine, but it is still running. So even though the execution is done, everything was valid, but it's still running. So it's never breaking. So this is something we can do. We can break it anywhere. Whenever like it's complete, you can break. And for an example, if we go end of this switch, we can break this based on any condition. So here I can break it. So that means the loop will be break if it goes end of this switch block. So let me show you what basically is happening here. Here I'm going to run this again, and then let's keep number option 3. From there we want to convert 23 degrees centigrade, and there you go, it runs, it finished. Hopefully things are making sense, but there are a few more validation, or maybe at least 1 or 2 validation we can add. So let's say what happened here, if the value that user is giving for us to convert, which is less than 0 maybe, so in this case you can also take care of that one as well. It's up to you. If you wish, you can deal with the negative value as well. Otherwise you can use a condition just to get rid of like those negative values here. So you can add if there is valid value, or if the converted valid value is less than 0, maybe you want to show something. So only positive value you want to allow. So in this case, what I will do, I will say here, or if the converted valid value is less than 0, then I can say only positive value is allowed. That's something I can say here. Please, only numeric positive values is allowed. That's something I can say here. I've added few validation, which is very nice. Let's add few more additional validation that will make our program more efficient. So let's think like that user will give the input value that we want to convert into something. But if they give us an empty value, for an example here, they can give a space and press enter. That's something can happen. So we need to take care of that, white space, or they can give us null value. So those things also we can, take care. It's going to be super easy for us. So first of all, before even starting the conversion, we want to make sure the user is not giving us an empty string. And how can we check that? So we can add a string here, or another if block. And here we are going to say, hey, we have the string class. From there, what we want to use is null or empty. This is what we can use, or maybe you can use is null or white space. That's the one. So if the value that we are taking from the user, which is the input value here, input value. So here we're taking the user input as a string. If the string is a null or white space, in this case, we can show some sort of message here. Okay. So let's show a message here, console write line, and let's say here, maybe invalid selection or empty value is not allowed. Input cannot be empty. So let's say that here, input cannot be empty. Input cannot be empty. All right. And if it is true, if the user is giving us an empty one, then in this case, we want to continue to the loop. Again, let's go back to the loop. That's what we can do. All right. We're adding quite many validation here. That's good. So far, so good. And then we can add a few more things here. Please enter a valid numeric value. That's sort of things as well. So this will make sure to understand, the user will understand more better if you add that. Please enter a valid numeric value. All right, hopefully things are making sense. Now let's try this one, and oops, not this one, I'm sorry. And let's continue again. Let me just run it here. So of course we are going to use .NET to run in order to run this one. And let's see what happens. So this time we'll select the option 3 again, and then we'll try to enter a value which is going to be empty. Press enter, and immediately you can see input cannot be empty. Please enter a valid numeric value. So you can see the message really well. Okay, that's good. So far so good. We are doing really well. And again, welcome to the unit converter app. This is something maybe giving us too many lines, new lines. So after that one, I want to get rid of this. All right, that's all. So far so good. Let's continue. And what else we can do here? So there are sometimes also when user giving us the input can be really, really big, and we can also take care of that input, the big input. So if the converted value after the conversion value, if the input is really big, you can handle that. You can give some sort of warning, hey, the value is too large and may not be realistic in this case. This is something also we can do. So let's see where we can use this. So here the user is giving us the option. There is nothing wrong with that. We are handling already that one. So when we have the user option from 1 to 6, okay, good, that's good, 1. And here, let's go down below. So we are first checking whether it's a null or white space. After that, we are converting. So after the conversion, we can check the converted value whether it's too large or not. And for that, what we'll do, we'll go down below. Let's copy paste this one and let's make a little bit change here. So here we are going to check the converted value that we have, if it is too large or not. So let me change this one, and here I'm going to use the maximum. You can use quite many things here, so there are many ways you can check the threshold. One way is 1E10. This is something you can add just to make sure the threshold is not that big. The other way, maybe we can try the maximum value. Okay, represent the largest possible value of an integer. This is something you can check as well. So if it is greater than the maximum value, then well, there is something must be wrong. You can give a warning here. Let's give a warning here. Warning. And now, of course, the value is not integer. We are trying to deal with double. So let's put the double maximum value here. For the double, we'll take the maximum value from the user. Okay. And then the value is too large. Let's say it here. The value is too large and may not realistic. All right, so far so good. I think things are making sense, and let me change the value here a little bit. So I guess things are making sense. That's all for now with the validation. But of course, this validation can be done more better way. We'll see that later on, but for now, that should be all. Later on, we're going to add here some methods, and that will take care of all the validation so that we are going to separate our codes later on, all right? Now that we are done with adding validation loop, it's time to push this code to the GitHub. But before that, there is an unnecessary variable that we're not using. So let's get rid of that one. And now it's time to push the code. So let's commit, and the commit message can be like loop and validation added, input validation added, validation is added. And let's push the code to the GitHub. Good push. And let's make sure we have all the code to the GitHub. So here I'm going to reload again. And there you go. It shows loop and input validation is added. So there are 8 commits we made here. And you can go from here. Let's say first we started with create console app. Then we added the conversion, the first one, miles to kilometers. Then we added Celsius to Fahrenheit. Then we added comments, then we added conversion between kilograms and pounds. Then we added if statement in this program, and then we added switch statement, and now we have added loop and input validation here. And now what we can do, maybe we can add methods here to make this one more powerful, more better, more reusable. Let's create some function and make our program more better than before. By creating function, you can separate your codes. You can break down the larger code into smaller pieces. You can make it more reusable. So when you break it down into smaller pieces and each function is responsible for each thing, you'll be able to find out any kind of error if something goes wrong quite easily. So let's do that. What we're going to do, let's say this is basically something we're using for displaying the menu. So what we can do, we can create a function called display menu, and we can put everything there. And it will be very easy for us to figure out. So let's do that. So here I'm going to cut everything from here, and let's create a function anywhere. You can do that. But before doing that, what I want to do, I want to put everything inside a class. That will be very easy for us to handle. So let's give a name here for this class. You can name anything. So by default, everything basically inside a class. But so far we have not created any class. But the compiler already knows that everything inside a class. So here I'm going to give a name. Let's call unit converter app. You can name it anything, doesn't matter. And then inside the class, I'm going to create a main method. So from this main method, or you can say function for an instance, you can start running your app. From here, the app will basically start run. So here I'm going to paste all the code that I had, and I can run it for sure. So we have everything as it is, nothing that much changing. We'll make the name of the function with the capital letter. So always you should start with the capital letter. That's like a convention for all the functions that we create in C#. Now that's all for now. So what we should do, what we have planned, that we are going to move all these things inside a function called menu. So this is how we are separating our code. So let's create a function here. So this is your main function, and top of that you can create function, or even under this main function you can create new function as well. There is nothing wrong with that. So either way, you can create a function here or after this main function. Okay, so let's create one here, and we're going to make sure that this is a static one so that we don't have to create any object to call this function. So we can just call with a name, that's all. And then let's call display menu. And there you go. We have a function which is basically responsible for displaying the menu that we have. So here we're saying, well, welcome to the converter app. Then we have the available conversion from 1 to 6. And then let's add one more line here. Maybe I can say, please select an option between 1 to 6. That's what I can, give the instruction here. So after this, please select an option from 1 to 6. From 1 to 6. There you go. Now the user will give the option and we'll take that option in the same line. So the input will take in the same line. So that's why I have this one right here. So now that I have separated, from here I can call the display menu, and this is how we are separating everything. So let's call the display menu from here, the method that we have, and there you go. That's all. So we have separated our code in a nice way. Now let's see what other things we can move from here. So we have quite a lot of codes for validation, and we can validate them inside a function. So let's create a function for validation. I mean, basically, I want to, just, move this part inside a function for the validation. Okay, and this will return true or false. And for that, let's create a function here at the top, and you can name it anything again. I'm going to name it as a static. This one will return a Boolean value. That's why I'm using bool. So after doing something, this function is going to return true or false. And then I'm going to call is valid option, something like this, is valid option. There you go. So this is the method that we are creating, or function, and this will take three things here, or at least two things. What we are going to pass, we're going to pass this option input, and let's do that here. So let's say string here inside the parameter, by the way, not outside. So let's say string, and it can be null, and here I'm going to say option input. Fair enough. And the other parameters I will use here as an out integer, and it's going to be option here. All right, let's keep it like this. And you'll understand for sure why I'm going to use this one. So just wait a second here. What I will do here, I will just copy this and I will move everything there. So let's do that. I'm going to copy these things. I'm going to paste it here, and it will return something in the end. Okay. But that's not all. We are not done yet. So let's try to understand what is happening. We're trying to convert something into integer. What is that? We are trying to convert this option out. And here we are going to use, of course, I don't need to define the data type. I'm going to use out option. Again, try to understand what basically we're doing. We'll pass something here that will be out as an option. And one more thing, what we want to check, the option has to be between 1 to 6. That's what we want to do. So whatever we did there, basically the same thing we'll do at the top. So let's do that. Here I'm going to add one more condition after that with the help of AND operator. And what we're saying basically, if the option after the conversion, if it is greater than or equal to 1, and if it is also, here we can use AND again if the option is, let me put it here, less than or equal to 6. So if these are the cases, then it's going to return true. Otherwise, it's going to return false. That's all. Okay. And now we can use this function that we created. Let's go up here. Actually, let's go down. So after this, what we did here, we took the user input for the option. Here we have the string value, and then we try to convert. Now, instead of this conversion, what I will do, so let me get rid of everything from here, or maybe I will keep the code so that you understand what I'm trying to do. So let's continue from here. I will call that is valid option function that I created, is valid option. And basically that is waiting for two inputs. So we'll pass two inputs there. The first one we want to pass is the option input. And then we want to pass that one. You remember that we have used the parameter out integer at the top. So we'll pass that one as an option here. That's all. Now, if everything goes right, then we want to do something. But if it is false, if it does return false, that means it's an invalid option and we want to show something here. So in this case, I will copy this and I will copy everything from here. Now I do not need this line anymore. I can get rid of them. And also I can get rid of this one as well. So I have separated quite many things and you can already see that, right? Hopefully things are making sense. Again, try to understand. what we did, we took the user input, we passed that to the function here, so it will receive that value, and whatever the whatever the value we had here, we are passing that as an integer there, so it will get that value. Again, you can do it many ways. It's not necessary to do it. For an example, let me get rid of this one. So I'm passing the value there, and now I can get rid of this one. So we are passing the value. After the passing the value, it will try to convert into option, and after that, that option, what we're basically is trying to do, you are trying to check whether it's greater than 1 or whether it's less than equal to 6. So you're just making sure it's in the range of between 1 to 6. That's all. And if everything goes right, then we'll have the result here as a true or false, and then we can do something. So for now, I want to run before adding few more things. Let's run this and let's see what happened. So it is going to ask us for the value, but again, we do not have anything by we're using .NET Help because we have some sort of error, and it's line number 5816. Let's go there. So 58, it should give us some error. And what do we have? It's basically here, the option, it's showing the error. So let's continue fixing this one. And why it is showing that? Because we do not have that out option here. And that's why what we did actually, we passed the other parameter. Now let me bring that one back, because after that converted value, we need that one. And that's why, let me go back and fix everything and keep as it is. So what we did here, after the conversion, you need that option, right? So here, if everything goes right and if you check the validation, you also need that option back. That's why we pass that one as a parameter from here out in option. And if everything goes right, we'll get that parameter here back, the option value. And now the error in line number 45 should not be valid anymore, or 46, whatever. So let me just run it again and let's see what happens if we run it again. So now it's running completely fine. So let's say we'll make a mistake intentionally, and this time we're not going to give a value in between 1 to 6. I'm going to give 7, and there you go. It says only numeric value is allowed. Select from option 1 to 6, and from where this one is coming from is the function that we created. So hopefully things are making sense. So if you want to get the value back after the conversion, you can pass that value here, whatever the value you're passing. So we are sending an option from the user, and also we want to make sure that after that value is true or false, if it is converted, we want to get it back. That's why we're passing this parameter as an option there. That's all. Hopefully things are making sense. Now let's continue. What else we can do here? So let's think about more functions now. Again, probably the same thing. We can do that for the input value that we are taking from the user for the conversion. So let's take that one as well. But before doing anything, I want to make sure it works. If I give 5, it does work completely fine. But now I know that it works. So whatever we are checking for the input value here, we can put everything inside a function for the validation. So we can move a lot of codes from here. So let's create a function for checking this one. But also what you can do when you are taking the user input, you can create a function for that as well. So let's do that as well. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create a function for taking the user input. So let's create a function here, static, and it's going to return a string, and we can name it get input value. Get input value. And there you go. Now this one is basically responsible for getting an user value. That's what we want to do. So now let me go down. Instead of this, I can maybe copy everything and I can paste it here. So what we want to do, we want to show the user, enter the value you want to convert, and then we want to take the user value and return that one. So we're basically going to return from here. Now if we call this function, it will return us a string and it will take the user input. So here I can get rid of this one now, and then from here, instead of this, we can get the user value, right? So let's implement this function in our code. So here I'm going to say get user input, or get the input value. There you go. That's the function we're calling. And again, we can define the string here directly, so there is no reason for us to declare at the top. Let me get rid of that one. So somewhere we're declaring the variable. There is no need for this one anymore. And hopefully things are making sense. So we are separating our code. I'm sure you are getting it. So again, after the conversion, after checking everything, after the conversion, if everything goes right, we basically need that converted valid value, right? So that's why what I will do, I will make sure that if I pass anything for the validation check, I'll pass these two things. So let's do that. I'm going to create a function at the top that will make sure about the validity. Here I'm going to create the function. Let's call it static. And just like before, it's going to return a Boolean value. And then we can name it anything. So let's call isValid. IsValid. Again, I need to start with capital V. IsValid input value. Okay, we just want to check whether the input value that we're taking, is it okay or not. IsValid input value. Okay. And now we are going to take two inputs. Remember, I already copied them. So we are going to take input value, which is going to be string in this case. And then we'll make sure to pass that, after the conversion. This converted valid value is important for us, so we want to get it back. So that's why we're passing this one as a parameter here. Now let's continue and let's see where we can make the change. So now that we created the function, we are going to move all the things that we have from here to here. Let me just move them. So this one we can move. This one is also something we can move. Also, we can move everything from there. So let me copy for now so that it doesn't make that much confusion to you. So here I'm going to paste. And now we're going to read like what is happening here. So first of all, try to understand. We are receiving the input value. Okay, makes sense? So we are receiving the input value. By the way, it can be null. So I'm just putting the string here as a null. Input value can be null. And then we are going to convert it into double, something if everything goes right. That's our target. Inside that, we are checking whether this input value is a string or not. If it is not, then we are going to return false. So let's do that. So if it is an empty string, then we are going to return false. That's what we want to do here. Okay, let's continue. After that, what does it show here? It says must be assigned before leaves the current method. We'll check that one for sure. Let's continue. And then what we have here, let's check isValue. We're trying to convert it into, we're trying to parse it. And now we do not need to specify the data type here anymore because we already mentioned that it's going to be double. So we will pass this value to here. That's what we want to do into this converted valid value. And then we are checking the condition, which is completely fine, nothing wrong here. If something goes wrong here, so if the value is not valid, we are going to return false from here. So if it does not make the condition true, in this case, of course, it's an invalid and we're going to return from here. Hopefully things are making sense. And what else we can do? I'm just thinking, let's check. Let's continue here. So if something goes wrong here in this one, converted valid value, what we want to do in this case, we're going to return false. We're not going to continue. So let's return false. Good, so far so good. Is there anything wrong? So we have something wrong here and we need to fix it. So if something goes wrong, in this case, it says it does need to return a value. So private member, unit converter rep isValid member is unused. Okay, we have not used it, but we'll use that. That's not a bigger issue. The out parameter must be assigned to before control leaves the current method. So it must have some value before we return from here. So let's do that. We're going to assign some value as a 0 for now. So it's a default value we're setting up here. And now what else we have? So this is the method that we have and it shows some error to us. So we are using static Boolean and then we have the method name isValid input value. Let's use the method. No worry, we'll fix this one for sure. So far so good. I hope everything is making sense to you. Now let's use it and let's get rid of all the code that we have written so far here. So inside the function, in the main function, what we are basically trying to do, we are going to call that one from here, the function that we had, and there we are going to pass two things, is the input value, that's the string, and also out the converted value. So we want to get that value as a double. So let's use double here. That's all. But it seems we have an error here and we'll fix this again. So we have something that we have defined here and we need to get rid of that one. That's all. Okay, now everything should work. Let's go down below. If this one returned false, only then we want to continue. So input cannot be empty, or you can put more things there for sure. But for now, I think it makes sense. And now I can get rid of many things. For an example, I can get rid of all these 3 things that we had earlier. Let's continue. Let's see what else we have to do here. So converted valid value, I think that's what I want to mention here as a variable name. Otherwise it will give us the error here. Okay, so I think I need to change everywhere now. So if I use converted valid value, that means everywhere it has to be converted valid value. Okay, so let's use converted value everywhere. I think it will make sense if I put it here. Okay, everywhere seems things are going really well. Now let's go up. Do we have any error? Still we have 1 error here, and we'll fix that very soon. But what is basically happening, we're taking the user input, we are passing for the validation check, and if everything goes right, we'll get the converted value here back, and then we can do whatever we want to do with the converted value. Okay, and then let's go up. Let's see what is the validation we have, and then we can make sure if everything right, then we can check the function again. So here, this was the function that we created, the get input value, and then we have static boolean is valid input value. I just want to make sure we do not have anything with the same name. Not all code paths returns a value. Okay, so something is going wrong. We'll check that. So we're taking the string input. We are also converting and that to the double converted valid value. We are taking out that value. And then what we are checking here, we're checking whether it is null or empty space. Okay. If it is, then we're setting the value here, input cannot be empty. This is something we're going to return false. And then we are checking the boolean value. If everything goes right, we are converting into converted valid value. And then also we are checking this condition. Hey, if the value is not a valid value, or if it is less than 0, then we are going to return this. And then we have the large value thing, and it should return false. It does. But if everything goes right, then we should return true. That's what we're missing. That's all. So if this one is not returned from here, if this one is not returned from here, that means no false value has returned. In this case, the true value needs to be returned. So that's all for the validation, input validation. Now we can add more things for sure, and we can make this code. Well, this code is already better, but all the code that we have inside the switch block, we can move this code from here. So let me just copy this. So whatever we have inside the switch block, from here to here, I guess I can move them. So let me cut them from here, and then let's move them inside a function. So let's go at the top. Just before this one, I'm going to name static void. Let's call perform conversion, and it's going to take 2 things from us, and we'll see that what are those things. It is already giving us the error here, and we know we need to have option and converted value. So let's get them. Option is going to be integer. Let's put integer option, and let's pull double converted value. There you go. And here converted value, not converted valid value actually. So we are using converted value. That's all. And now there should not be any error here. So we just need to make sure when we're calling them, we are passing these 2 options. And let's go to the main function here. So we can call them and we can pass this to this function, right? Again, we can make this one more shorter, and you will see that very soon. But for now, this much is completely fine. From my perspective, what I'm thinking, this is yet better for sure. So now what we will do, we want to convert it, right? So if you want to convert it, then we need to call it from the main function. So we are here just before this one. We'll call that perform conversion, and we're going to pass 2 things. We're going to pass the option there and also the converted value. That's all. Now everything should work at this moment. And then if you go to the switch case, we can make this program more better. So if you go to the switch, let me go to the switch here. There are a lot of conversion or calculation going on, and we can make those calculation more shorter. Few more functions that will help us to do the calculation for all the conversion that we are doing. But before that, what I was thinking, we're taking the user input here. So maybe we could reuse one of our function, and that was one of the reasons why we created them. So let me use this one. This will help us to get the input value. So first one here, you can see this is basically responsible for displaying the menu. So if I click here, you can see that this is the part which is responsible for showing the menu. So if there is something wrong with the menu, I can go immediately there. I can find out the problem. This one will help us to get a string. Okay. And then we are checking is valid option. We're checking the validity with this method, something we already checked. Again, we're getting some value, input value here, and then with that one, that input value, we can, convert, and we can check if it is a valid input value or not. Okay, if everything goes right, only then we are going to ask the user to perform the conversion or all the calculation going on there. So let's move on. First of all, you can see this is what we're basically doing here. We are converting. So this conversion we can do inside a method, and let me show you how can you do that. So we can create one more function for this type of thing. So here I will create all the conversion method. Now why I'm calling them method, because we are creating all this function inside a class. So that's why we need to call them as a method. So let's say conversion methods, and the first one we want to create is, let's create that here, static double, and it's basically going to help us for convert kilometers to miles. Okay, and what basically it's going to take as an input, we'll see that very soon. But if we get the value, then what we want to do, let me paste it here. Now I do not need too many stuff. I just need the value from the user. That's what I'm looking for. And then I can convert that. So here we'll take that value from the user, which is going to be in the kilometers. So let me use kilometers. You can use anything, doesn't matter. Kilometers. So whatever value will pass, that will be, used as a kilometers. That's all. So we created the function here, and this is what we can use now at the top. So let's go at the top, and let's actually from here, instead of this, so this value, we need to call this function and we need to pass that. Remember, this one is for converting kilometers to miles. So this value is going to be the kilometers, and after the conversion we will have the value as a miles. Now if you're not familiar with this, is a lambda expression. So after the calculation is done, it will return the value as a double. So let's do that. We can call it from here, and let's do that. So let's say convert kilometers to miles, and we're going to pass the value from the user. So value from user. That's all, and it should work. That's all, and hopefully things are making sense. Now we are moving all the calculation at the top, and this is how we can continue. So let me create all the function, and then I can use them from everywhere. So here I will just copy and paste this one. This time I will call convert miles to kilometers. So let's do that here. Convert miles to kilometers. And this time we'll take the value as a miles, and then we'll convert. Now how we are going to convert, we'll divide the miles by this value. That's all. And then now it's time to change whatever we have here. So I'm going to call that one that we created right now, which is going to be convert miles to kilometers, and then we are going to pass the value from user here. All right, let's do that. Value from user. Hopefully things are making sense. We are moving all the calculation inside functions. Let's continue doing that. This time I'm going to create one more, and this time it will be called convert Fahrenheit to Celsius or Celsius to Fahrenheit. Let's put it like that way. Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, to Fahrenheit. Looks good, and we'll take the value here as a Fahrenheit, as a Celsius, and we need to convert that. And how we're going to do that, so let's get the formula from down below, wherever we are converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So this is the formula. I can copy it and I can paste it here. So let me paste, but instead of this value from user, we are using Celsius. So let's put it here, Celsius, that's all. And of course we could put rep everything inside a parentheses here. That's all. Hopefully things are making sense. And now let me copy one more. This time it's going to be from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Fahrenheit to Celsius. So let's change it. Celsius. And we can say that we'll take the value as a Fahrenheit. And now, of course, we can copy the formula that we have for Fahrenheit to Celsius is this one. So let me copy everything and let me take it at the top. I'm going to paste here. Let's paste it here, and let's change the name here as a Fahrenheit. All right, now we have both of them are ready and we can use them. So let me come back here. This time we're going to call convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, and we're going to pass the value there, which is value from user. That's all. Now again, the same thing we will do here. So we are going to call convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, and we're going to pass the value from the user. That's all. So hopefully things are making sense. We have two more functions to create for the calculation. So let's go at the top. We'll create two more functions for kilograms to pounds and pounds to kilograms. So let me copy and paste. And this one is going to be kilogram to pounds. So let's write it down, kilograms to pounds. All right, things are making sense hopefully. And then here we're going to take the value as a kilograms, and let's get the calculation from there. So this is a simple calculation that we need to do. Let's go at the top and let me paste it here instead of this. All right, and let's get rid of that semicolon, and we're going to use kilograms here. That's all. And now let me copy and paste this one. This time it's going to be pounds to kilogram, pounds to kilograms. Let me put it here, kilograms, and this time we will take pounds as an input and we'll convert that into what do you call kilograms. So let's divide it by this value. That's all. And hopefully things are making sense. Now let's use them. Instead of this, we are going to call the kilograms to pounds. But of course that one should have convert word because that's what we're using everywhere. So we should be consistent. Let me add the word convert here. Okay, now let's go down below and let's add convert. All right, let's do exactly same thing for this one as well. So instead of this, we're going to call convert pounds to kilograms, and let's give the value here. So that's all. Hopefully things are making sense. Now we have separated everything inside methods. So this is called separation of concern. Now the code is modular. If something doesn't work, you know exactly where to go. So let's say if there is something wrong when you're converting from kilograms to pounds, you will go to the calculation exactly there. And if something goes wrong with the input validation, so you'll come here. If something goes wrong with the valid option or not, you will come here. If there is something wrong with the menu, you will come here. So you know exactly where to come. Okay, so this is something will basically enhance the code maintainability, and also all the input validation methods are separate. So if there is something wrong, as I said, we can find that easily. So hopefully things are making sense. And now it's time to push all this code to the GitHub because we added the methods. And let's do that. Here I'm going to use git add, and then let's say commit. This is something we want to do. So let's say add method here. Let's go and let's say add methods. There you go. And then what do we want to do? We want to push this code to the GitHub. There you go. So that's all for now, and hopefully things are making sense. Now that we have added quite many things in this application, it's time for us to refactor this code. So we added if else, loop, function, switch, input validation. But of course, the naming of the function, they needs to be consistent everywhere. And we need to look at whether we can combine few more things here. So we'll go through the code, we'll make sure everything they're following the best practices and we're consistent everywhere. If we see something that we can adjust, that's what we call basically the refactoring here. So let's start from this one, the display menu. I don't think so that I can do anything here, so I'll just leave it like this. And then here, what we're trying to do, we are trying to take a user input, and then we are trying to validate the option. So we could combine these two. So what I will do here, instead of is valid option, I will say try get option. Let's do that. Try get option. So basically we will take the user input. Let me just copy and paste. I'll paste it here. Again, you can continue with the existing. There is nothing wrong with that. So let's say string input here, and let's define a variable string input. And then let's use this console.readline. Let me just get rid of this return. There is no need for this one. Okay, so we're basically taking the input, and then we can check whether it is like a valid or invalid option. And for that, we have already the code that we need. So basically, I'm going to add if else. Let me do that. So here we have if, and let me add the else as well. And well, in this case, else might not be necessary because we can return. So let me just get rid of this one, and let me copy everything from here to here, something that we have already written, and we're going to use that code. That's all. And let me cut this one now. There is no need for this one. So if this is true, of course, we know that if everything can go well, we can convert it And if the option is between 1 to 6, then we're going to return true. All right. Otherwise, we want to return false. So let me just write it down here. Return false. And why we're not using else? Because if this condition is true, we are going to return immediately from here. So it's not going down. So again, you can use else, or there is no need for that. But before returning as a false, I want to show a message that only numeric values are allowed. And this is something we did earlier. And why I'm writing this one, let me go down and maybe I can show you there. So in the main function, you know that this is something we had. And basically, I want to get rid of this one. So instead of this one, I'm writing everything there. So let me just copy and let's go up. And then we'll fix, of course, a few more things. So here, I'm going to paste instead of this. So we are combining one more if else here in this one. That's all. And then let's continue with the next one. So basically what we want to do, we are going to pass the input here instead of this. If everything goes right, then we have the option. This is what basically we're going to return. And in this case, we're not going to receive this string as an input. So what basically we're doing, we'll call this try get option from the main function. And we'll pass this option so that in the end we can get return if everything goes right. We're taking the user input, we're checking the validation. If everything goes right, then we are going to return true, otherwise we are going to return false. Now that we created this one, it's time for us to use this one in the main function. So let's do that. Let's go down below. And wherever we have used this code, now let's replace that. So we do not need this one anymore. So instead of this, we are going to call that method that we created, which is try get option. So something will try to get the option for us. And here I'm going to just use the method syntax. And if everything goes right, then of course it will go next. But if something goes wrong, in this case, we'll continue to the loop again. Something we did earlier, exactly same thing we did here. But remember that you need to pass a variable so that you can get that value if everything goes right. Okay, so let me pass that. That's all. And that should be understandable to you. So instead of this, now we can get rid of this. We have moved our code there. And also we do not need to take the user input anymore. So you can see that there are a few things I'm changing. That's good. Main function should be always more cleaner as possible. We can do the exact same thing for the next function that we had, which is basically checking the user input that we are taking. So it's making sure whether that user input is valid or not. So let's continue with this one as well. So this time, just like before, we can take the user input here. So let's say here, let me check. Enter the value you want to convert. Okay, so let me just use this one, paste it here. And also let's change the name just like before. Let's be consistent. So the last one, what we have done here, try get option. And this time we will try with the function called try. Let me change the name. Try get conversion value. Conversion value. Fair enough. We're not going to take the user input. So we'll take the input here inside this function. Of course, it's going to give us some error, but let's wait for that. We'll figure out why this one is causing the error. Of course, we are missing the parentheses. Let's bring that back. We are going to take the user input here. So let's add string input value here. Input value. And let's read from the user console.read line. There you go. And of course, make sure that you have no typo there. Okay. And then we are checking if the string is null or worthy. Completely fine, just like before. Then what else? We are making sure if here we can pass this one directly maybe inside. So instead of maybe just creating one variable, we can put it here directly. That's also completely fine. So let me paste it here. All right, and in this case, there is no need for this one, just clearing out a few things, that's all. Return false, and then we have for this one, we have also return false, return true. Okay, there is not too many things I can do with this one, it seems. So let me just cut this one, there is no need for this anymore. Let's go down below and let's use this function that we created in the main one. So let's go down below. And now we do not need to take the user input. Of course, we are doing it already in that method. And what is the name of the method? Get valid try get conversion value, and we are going to pass the converted value there. That's all. So this one will bring that converted value for us. If something goes wrong, then we'll continue from here. Otherwise, we're going to the perform conversion. That's all. And now things looks more better than before, I guess. Let's run this and let's test this one out. Okay. So here I'm running this program, .NET to run. And there you go. Now let's say if I want to try number 3, enter the value you want to convert. Let's say let's give 45 degrees Celsius, and it shows the current Fahrenheit value. So it's completely working fine. Let's check the input validation a little bit. Let's say if I give 7, it shows only numeric values allowed. Please select from option 1 to 6. So we need to select from option from 1 to 6. So let's say I have selected option 3 again. And if I want to give an invalid value for conversion, then immediately it shows, hey, please enter a valid numeric value. All right? Things are making sense for sure. We made some little bit refactoring. Let's add that to our GitHub. So here I'm going to add the commit, all the changes that I made. And let's add a commit message. Let's call the refactoring methods. And let's push this code to the GitHub. There you go. Now let's go back to the repository that we are working. And at this moment we have 9 commits, but I guess this is not true. So let me check again. Refactoring methods. That's something happened right now. So we have almost 10 commits. Now the last thing I want to add in this app is exception handling. Last thing we want to add is exception handling. Sometimes you cannot predict the scenario, so in this case it's better to use exception handling or try catch. Of course, when you can predict, you can use if else. There is nothing wrong with that. So let's go to the example that we have at this moment, and we can see where we can use these try catch things. So for an example, when you are taking the user input, based on the user option, of course you can predict what will happen here. But when you are making any network request, for an example, or file input output request, or anytime there can be something wrong. Let's say user gave an input and you are trying to divide by 0, or maybe you are trying to access an index which is something not available in an array. So in that kind of scenario, it's better to use try catch. So let me show you how can you use try catch. I think I will use here. So all this if else block that we have, let me just minimize a bit so that I can show you. There are 3 if we have at this moment. So what I will do, I think okay, I think I can do it here. So let me just cut all of them from here to here, and I'm going to use try catch. So let's put the try block there. Inside the try block, I'm going to paste all the if code that I have. And after that, here, I'm not going to use catch here. I guess I will use it outside. So let me think a little bit. So we have the try block. After this one, we have the try block. And inside the try block, we'll keep all the if related code and we'll throw them. So that's what I want to do. Okay, so let's continue one by one. First of all, I'm not going to convert anything. Let me get rid of this one. I'll throw an exception here. So let's do that. We can throw an exception, and the name of the exception will be argument exception for this one. So this is what I'm going to use, and let's put them inside a parenthesis. So what I'm trying to do, if somebody is trying to give us null or white space, we would say input cannot be empty, which is true in this case, right? We cannot take empty input. So this is an argument exception that we have. Somebody is trying to give something and we're not happy with that argument. Okay. And for the next one, we also can do kind of the same thing. So here I'm going to copy and paste. Let's do that, and let's put it here. And we're going to throw the exception, and this time it will be, of course, we're checking whether it's a positive value or not. So let's put it that here, and we're going to say only positive value is allowed. Positive numeric values are allowed. All right, and this should make sense to you. Okay, fair enough. Let's continue. The next one, what I want to add here is checking the maximum number. If the value is too large, we want to give a warning. So in this case, we're going to do exactly the same thing. We'll just use throw new argument exception. this one will be argument out of range exception. So you are not, expecting a bigger range, that's all. And from here, I'm going to return the false. I'm going to remove that one. And after the if everything goes right, in this case, we're going to return true. Okay, that's all. But if something goes wrong, in this case, just here, we have the catch block, and the catch needs to receive all of them one by one. Remember, if something is going wrong in this if, you are throwing it. In this if something goes wrong, you are throwing it. If here something goes wrong, you are throwing it. And if nothing goes wrong, then we're returning true. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, we need to handle all those things that we threw already. So the first catch is going to receive the argument exception. And let's give a name of the variable, whatever you want to give. In this case, I'm using x, and we are going to print it here. That's all the exception that we have thrown from the above code. So here I'm going to show error, and let's print the message from the exception that we have. That's all. So if something goes wrong here, you're throwing this message, input cannot be empty. You're throwing this argument exception, so it will go down below and handled by this catch. And it will show that message that you thrown from the try block from here. Input cannot be empty. In this case, this one will work. Great. And now we need few more catches to catch the exception, few more exceptions. So let me just copy and paste down below. In this case, of course, there are three, throwing that we have in this one. Of course, the argument exception will work. Then we already handled the argument exception, but we did not handle the argument out of range exception. So this is something we need to handle. Let's go down below and let's paste it. That's all. And this should work in this case. The argument out of range exception that we have. Is there anything else we want to do? Just let me check. The previous catch clause already catches the argument range exception. So it says the last one that we have used, it can already handle that one. Okay, if it does, then it's nice. The previous clause already catches all exception of these of a super type argument exception. That's fine. So this means all of them are like handled by one, so we don't have to worry about that. And if something goes wrong, then we want to make sure the value is going to be 0, and we're returning as a false value in this case. Okay. And what do we mean by return false here? Just to give a moment. So the converted value, valid value, that's the one we are using. Let's go at the top. Yes. So you can see this is the parameter name converted valid value. So we have to make sure that one we are using here. That's all. And now everything should be fine at this point. And we wanted to use try catch, and we have already used try catch here in this program. So hopefully things make sense. Now let's push the code to the GitHub. Let's do that. That's the final step for us. And here I'm going to make sure add exception handling, and let's push the code. But don't forget to test it out. So let's give it a try here. What I'm going to do, let me show you from here. So let me run this program and let's go there. Okay. So here I'm running this program with .NET run, and then it will ask for the option. So we'll give a valid option. Let's say it's 3, pressing enter, and then it shows enter the value you want to convert. Now intentionally I'll give space and then I'll press enter. So I'm giving space, pressing enter, and there you go. It shows input cannot be empty. So basically from here it has thrown an exception. That exception was handled by this catch, which is this argument exception, and it showed that message. And then again, it's returning because we are returning false. And you know that if something we are returning as a false, let's go down below, how the main function is behaving. If something goes wrong here, then it's continuing again. And we are having this message, input cannot be empty. Please enter. So we do not need this message anymore. We can get rid of this one now, because we are showing the message twice. Now let's try again. This time I'll make another mistake intentionally so that I can test this one out. So I'll give a negative value here. First, let's select the option 3, and then I'm going to give a negative value, let's say -5, and it should show that input cannot be empty, not this one. So here only positive numeric values are allowed. So we can see that all the try catch, they're working completely fine. And that's all with this program. So far we have done quite many things with this. so that we have tested our knowledge that we have gained so far. We have tested our operators knowledge, we have tested our if else knowledge, then we have tested our switch knowledge, then we tested our loop kind of knowledge, and then we tested how to use method. Also, we have tested our knowledge with exception handling. That's all with this one.